Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. Today, Hillary and I are going to slaughter this pig, and it's for our own consumption. Butchery is something that I'm not a big fan of. It's kind of a day I dread, but it has to be done, and today's kind of nice weather, so we're going to get to it. This guy was a lot easier than Missy. Missy was in the barn, our giant sow that was dressed like 500 pounds. This one will dress at about 250, I'm saying, closer to 250 than 200 based on what we brought to the butcher from his batch a week ago. We did one of these videos a year ago, so I have a good sense of the kind of questions that come up in the comments. I'm going to try and answer them as we go. First off, I used a 12 gauge shotgun and shot him right through the eyes, sort of heading back into the body, which is the best way to catch the brain. Yes, you can shoot pigs with a 22 Magnum, but I view it as an extra insurance when I put a bigger hole in the head that I'm going to hit the brain and make a clean kill. No, the slug does not make a mess. It doesn't penetrate into the meat at all. It stays in the head. I'm not eating the brains. That's not something we do. So no. It works out just fine. A slug shell cost me about $1. 22 cartridge is probably a dime or less, but 90 cents, it's worth the insurance to me. And immediately after I shot the pig, I stuck it while its heart was still beating. And to stick it, you stick a knife straight up through its neck and catch the artery in its neck so that it bleeds out well. And like I said, this is not a fun process for me, but it's an essential part of our life on the farm. Oh, and also, we don't save the blood. It must be a cultural thing. I've never had blood pudding. I've never had blood sausage. I'm sure they're delicious. It's just not something that I'm really into. We just want to wash her down before we skin her. And that will raise a whole other topic about skinning a pig. Or him, I should say. But he had never had a name. Lower the bucket a little bit. Let me reach. When you're skinning pigs, the hair is actually pretty tough stuff. Same with deer. I do a lot of deer. So when you skin, you always want to keep your knife blade underneath and cutting from the inside out, or else you're going to dull the knife blade real fast. Feet, same thing. I know some people say that I'm wasting it, but I don't care to make pig's feet. And that's the way it goes. Boy, this knife is nice and sharp. So to cut in, I'm using, this is a buck 110 that I've had forever. And it's nice because it's good for first cutting in and getting the slits on the skin where you want them to be. And then I'll go to a skinning knife. He's got a good amount of fat on him. I like to see that. And by no means am I a professional. I'm a farmer, and I do this when I need to do it. You know, I do deer quite often. In fact, this knife has skinned a lot of deer, and I prefer it for skinning deer. But a pig, we might do one a year. Let's get him started here. Yeah, I had a lot of comments on the Missy video. Oh, your knife's too small. And my response is, it's not the size of the knife, it's how you use it. This knife works just fine for me. If you keep it sharp, you're good. But I'm only going to use it to start out here, I think. The slower work is really getting started around here. Now I have a cape around them, and we can take and make a slit down the middle and be careful not to perforate the body cavity. We gut pigs last because, and yeah, make sure you don't break the urethra either. We gut pigs after we skin them. It's a little different than deer. When you shoot a deer, quite often it's gut shot, and you want to get the contamination out of it as quickly as possible, so you gut it first. But with pigs, it's easier, in my book, to skin them first and then gut them afterwards. I think we're going to have to cut and pull.
Yeah.
I put slits in the hide and then use them as pull points. There we go. I have heard of people hooking a tractor on and pulling it like taking off a sock.
Oh God.
Yeah. Well, I guess it works. Let's take this little bit off. Here. This skinning knife I'm using is Gustav Solingen, made in Germany. It's supposed to be a real good knife. My great uncle passed it down with me. He did a lot of butchering. By far, I think that the biggest comment in the Big Pig video was, why are you skinning it? Why are you wasting all of that good skin and fat? And I agree. The skin and the fat, or the skin especially, we try to save the fat on the carcass as much as we can. The skin is good for cracklings and things like that. But there's a bunch of things that influence whether we save the skin or not. Around here, roasters, which are pigs that they dress at, I don't know, 70 to 100 pounds, that people will roast whole. Quite often they're scalded and the skin's left on because they roast real nice that way, whole. But for the cuts that we do, we're going to grind most of this pig because that's a staple for my family, ground pork. It's by far the thing that we eat the most of off of a pig. So the hams go for ground pork, the front shoulder, except for the pork butts, they'll go for ground pork. And about the only cuts we'll save out of it are the chops or the loin and back here. We'll save the pork butt roast, and I'm going to do the pork belly along with the ribs. I'm going to leave the ribs attached to the pork belly for smoking, and I think they'll turn out really good. I got to cut around the pee-pee. I guess I should have offered my normal disclaimer at the beginning of the video, but I forgot that young children, those with heart conditions, and vegans probably shouldn't be watching, but I'll bet they've figured that out already. You just get this out with the buck knife, and then I'll switch back to the skinning knife.
Okay.
The other thing that influences whether to scald or skin is the actual process itself and how much help you got. We used to scald pigs when I was a kid, and we've got a big scalding cauldron in back of the barn. You'd have to get up first thing, start the cauldron, and then you'd have to count on having 4 or 5 people at least there to help you, so when you scrape, you can scrape fast enough. And there's the labor of getting the fire to the right temperature and watching it. And if I had a propane fired big tank, I could just dip them in with the loader. That'd be a different story. That'd make it real easy, but we don't. It's just Hillary and I doing the work, so skinning winds up being a lot less labor intensive than scalding. Of course, there are other methods of scalding than dipping them in a pot. Some people will throw hot water on them and then scald them and scrape them a little bit at a time. Never done it that way before. Some people will actually burn the hair off with a torch, which is something we used to do after we scalded. If we had any remaining fine hairs, we'd burn it off. I'm not comfortable with what the flavor would be left behind if I burned all this hair off. I just think it would give it an off flavor.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I've never had pork done that way. I really don't know. Animals have been butchered on the farm this way right up until recently. They still are, but not as much as they used to be. When I was a kid, we used to do on-farm butchering every fall. You'd do it when the weather was about like this. It's in the low to mid 30s today. We want it right above freezing, when you can hang the animal out, outside, not in a walk-in cooler, and have it stay cool without the meat spoiling. So we'd always watch for the right weather, just like we found the right weather today. And it was a family event. Well, cousins and uncles and aunts would come over to help with the butchering. Much less stress on the animal, I think, butchering on the farm than sending it to a slaughterhouse. All that transport and moving around out of their home environment just ain't good. Ain't good. Sharp knife is a happy knife. I see these guys who butcher for a living in there with the steel. I can't do that.
No.
Well, I get the job done.
You're probably like, what a bunch of amateurs.
I use a stone to sharpen knives, the old style oil stone, and get them good and sharp that way. This is my least favorite part. Least favorite of the least favorite. Skinning. Everything else is quick.
I can't believe the difference in size between this one and Missy.
Missy, yeah.
Missy was
Missy
like,
was 9 feet long, I
she
think,
was
when we measured her.
massive.
9 feet.
she was a big pig, and we could not get her up high enough to get this done the way we're doing it today.
You may have seen in shots in the cattle barn that I do. Here, let me move this up. There's a whole bunch of tools hanging on the walls that are old, came out of the carriage house before I tore it down here. This gambrel is one of them. I have about 10 of these gambrels. They're all wood of different sizes for doing beef and pork and wild game. It's kind of cool. It's at least my great-grandfather's age, so that's at least 100 years old. Get this leg started here.
Okay.
You can do one leg and I'll do the other.
Just peel it? Is that what we're gonna...
Pig's knuckles.
Big
I remember when I
knuckles.
lived in Syracuse, they used to sell pig's knuckles in one of the ethnic markets I used to go to. But you couldn't find them anyplace else. You ever had pig's knuckles, Hill?
No, I've seen them though. They're pickled, right?
Sometimes they are. Our butcher won't do pig's knuckles or pig's feet or anything like that because he says the hooves are too tough to clean up. It's a USDA thing, you know. He's always under the gun of the inspector, so I don't know. Whatever. Hill, I'm going to raise them up.
Okay.
When I was a kid doing butchering, of course, we didn't have a front end loader. It was block and tackle on a big tree limb. Boy, a front end loader makes things so much easier. I'm probably going to need that little knife to trim around this leg.
Yeah.
Here. Did you get that one done?
Yeah, I think so.
Well,
Here.
you should have been a surgeon. Here you go.
No.
They would have called you the butcher if you were a surgeon.
No.
Oh yeah, I got an appointment with the butcher today. He's going to take out my appendix. You'd be punching me if the camera went on. Doesn't matter.
Do you want me to hold that for
Yeah, that would help a lot. Now we got him skinned down the head, so I'll just take the hide off now. We compost all this. It all returns to the farm. Hide, all the guts, anything that we don't eat goes back to feed the farm. Or the chickens, right? Chickens will eat anything. Next we'll raise them up and take the head off, and here I'm getting into kind of YouTube dicey territory, just warning you. One of the reasons I make these videos is I get money out of the advertising. And advertising is what makes the world go around on YouTube. So advertisers don't usually want to put their product next to a video of some guy gutting a pig. It just doesn't look well for their product, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, YouTube has certain guidelines for a video that's monetized. If I want to just put up this video and not get any ad revenue from it, I could show the whole thing. And YouTube would say, okay. When you're monetizing, you got to walk a line when it comes to graphic stuff and all that. So I try to walk that line to show you as much of the process as I can and still get monetized. Alrighty. Here we go. Might as well take the feet off too while we're up here.
Yeah.
Chickens are getting the front feet. We'll lure them back down. Oh, I like that fat. There's the urethra right there. We don't want to break that. But we do want to open up the body cavity. Look at all that fat. Let's just take that urethra right out. we'll leave that for now. Open this up. Here's where you don't want to perforate the gut. Now we'll go around to the back and cut the rear end out. Phil, can you hold the pig?
Yep.
Once I cut around this, it should come loose and pull from the other side. It should be loose now. If I can find it in all the fat. Come on. There it is.
You got it?
Yeah, without perforating it. There we go.
Yay!
There. YouTube definitely won't let me go any further than this, so I'm going to go ahead and spill the guts. And it's a really simple procedure. The intestines just come right out, and then there's a diaphragm that separates the lungs and the heart and the liver. Is the liver up front of the diaphragm?
It's the lungs are above the diaphragm. The liver and everything's below.
Liver's below the
Anyway.
diaphragm. So once you get the intestines out, you got to cut around the diaphragm, take it out, and then you can pull the lungs out, and then work the windpipe out by cutting around it and either pulling it out from below or above. Here's the liver, and the liver looks good. That's one of the first things you'll see if you got parasite problem is spotty liver, hard liver with roundworm. It goes through the intestine, winds up in the liver and in the lungs. Liver's always a good indicator of health. Hillary says must be all those black walnuts she fed the pigs in the fall, and I've heard black walnuts are a natural dewormer. I don't know. Last thing we want to do, well, second to last thing before we bring them in to hang and chill, is cut the H-bone, which runs right in between the legs here, and it'll open up the whole body cavity. Get all the way through it, did I? Yep. And the last thing we want to do is wash them off. He's all cleaned out. You can see inside there. He's got a lot of fat on him. I keep saying that. He's got a lot of fat on him. The leaf lard, which is the most highly prized lard, is inside the body cavity back in here. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's back in there. And then back fat. He's got quite a bit of back fat. Back fat's a less kind of premium kind of lard, I guess. But he's ready to cut up. Now we can bring him into the garage and let him chill and hang. Ezra, you picked a fine time to show up and help. We're almost done. We're just gonna, you can grab them right where the gambrel goes, and we're gonna pull them. Yes, we're not professional butchers. We make do with what we got, and this is what we got. Works fine. Put the gambrel back in. This hoist is multi-purpose, you know. Tractor parts, pigs, works just the same. That's it, hell. But this took us about 2 hours, all said and told, from live pig to what we have here. Not nearly as long as that big pig took us. Skinning took us forever with the big pig. The next step is we're going to let it chill here at least overnight, maybe for more. And the main idea behind it is just that the meat is firmer, and especially the fat is firmer and easier to cut once it chills down to, 35 degrees or so. And it'll get that in the shop tonight. It's supposed to go down to 10 or 15 degrees tonight, I think. Mm-hmm. And then we can start cutting. I have never thought there's much of a point to hanging pork like you hang beef. You hang beef so that natural enzymes and bacteria can go to work and break down some of the I forget what it is in the meat, but anyway, it makes the meat more tender. This pork at 6 months old is just as tender as can be already, so I've never seen the point in hanging it for any extended period of time. All we want to do is get it to chill down. The last thing I want to mention in this video is Hillary and I are doing this pork only for our own consumption. So here in the US, we're allowed to do that on our farm, kill our own meat, just like we would harvest game and eat it ourselves without any inspection. If we were going to sell this pork, we would have to send it to a USDA inspected butcher house where they actually have a USDA inspector there, and you know, to get the stamp and all that. But for our own consumption, this is just fine. We'll follow up with other videos as we grind. We're going to make sauce, a lot of hot sausage, ground pork. I'll show you how I'm going to cut the pork belly with the ribs on. It'll be delicious to smoke in future videos. So that's it, right, Hill? Mm-hmm. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative about kind of where our food comes from. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.